Just over a week ago, a local historical website called Old Toronto posted side-by-side pictures of St. Andrew's Church, the first taken in 1876, shortly after the construction of our present building, and the second picture taken within the past year. Clearly, so much has changed around this old church building, and yet one might make the assumption that very little has changed in this beautiful old historic structure at the corner of King and Simcoe. But such an assumption would be quite mistaken. One of the most significant changes is actually inside the church itself in the sanctuary area. Although we might know the front of the church to look like this, until 1907 it looked like this. So what took place to lead to such a dramatic change in this historic space? In 1905, the well-loved Reverend Armstrong Black announced his intention to resign from his ministry at St. Andrews and move back to England. He offered to continue to serve until a suitable replacement was found, which took place in June of 1905, when a young minister named Thomas Crawford Brown was initially appointed as minister in charge and eventually was called, ordained, and inducted as the minister of St. Andrews. Crawford Brown, although he was born in Carleton County, Ontario, and a multiple gold medalist graduate of Queen's University, had undertaken graduate studies in Edinburgh, where he also served as a deacon and as the assistant minister at St. Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh. The principal of Queen's University, upon being consulted about suitable candidates to consider filling the vacancy at St. Andrews, recommended Brown, who was subsequently called and eventually ordained and inducted in November of 1905. Well, things were changing in downtown Toronto, and less than a year after Reverend Brown began his work, serious conversations in the congregation were taking place about whether St. Andrews should move from its location at King and Simcoe. In December 1906, the Toronto Globe reported that not a little talk has been heard about the advisability of following the movement of population uptown, and there have not been wanting those who predicted that in the near future St. Andrews would follow the current. In fact, at the session meeting on September the 17th, 1906, it had already been recorded that Reverend Brown expressed himself strongly in favor of selling the land upon which the present church building and manse are erected as soon as an adequate price could be obtained, and relocating and rebuilding in some other part of the city, in large part due to the growth of the downtown area, but the decline in the number of people who lived in close proximity to the church. But during the fall of 1906, something clearly changed, since by December of 1906, a joint meeting of the Session and Board of Managers resolved to stay at the corner of King and Simcoe. The reasons for this decision were varied, but a significant factor was the feeling, both on the part of Reverend Brown and the members of Session, that the mission of St. Andrews was to those who were residents and workers and visitors in the heart of Toronto. As noted in the Globe article, which documented the sermon that Reverend Brown preached on the first anniversary of his induction, he stated his belief that the mission of the church was to continue in the future to meet the needs of the residents of the district in which it is located, and not only the regular attendants, but the great floating population, the transient guests of the downtown hotels to whom it has been a home. And both in that article and a number of references at the time, there is a phrase repeated that I found to be really intriguing, that St. Andrews will continue in the future, as it has been in the past, preeminently as the church of the stranger. But there was work that needed to be done if the church was going to stay where it was, including the need for some internal renovations, or what was referred to as sprucing up. Some historians suggest that a part of the reason for the proposed changes were due to Reverend Crawford Brown's experience at St. Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh, where the architectural and liturgical styles had influenced him, and he brought them back to Toronto with him. Nonetheless, in good Presbyterian fashion, a committee was appointed to formulate a definite plan for what might be done to make the church building a more attractive and engaging space. The decision was approved by the congregation in January 1907 to undertake a major renovation rather than sell and relocate the church. That plan was approved and work began. The decision was made to remove the wall that stood underneath the arch at the front of the sanctuary, which would open the space behind that wall, which had up to that point in time been used as a Sunday school room and lecture room. The pulpit would be moved from the center to the side where it is now presently located. The pews in the main part of the sanctuary would be reconfigured in order to create the center aisle, which previously had not existed, and a new organ built by the Cassavants Company from St. Hyacinthe, Quebec, would be installed, and which would, when combined with the organ that had previously been located in the gallery, become at the time the largest church organ in Canada. For what it's worth, the organ console that was installed in 1907 is still in the chancel area, though many have not even had a chance to really take a look at it. Due to the renovation work that was taking place, the church met for worship in the hall of the Nelson Street Institute beginning in June. However, by the end of the summer, more space was needed to accommodate the worshippers as people returned from their summer vacations. So arrangements were made for worship services to take place in the newly constructed Alexandra Theatre, now known as the Royal Alex. As reported in the Globe, with orchestra stalls turned into pews and the stage into a pulpit, the congregation of St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church worshiped yesterday under circumstances that were probably unique. The congregation had to make use of the Alexandra Theatre. The choir was accommodated on the stage, a piano supplying the place of an organ, and a desk placed in front served as a pulpit. The reopening service of St. Andrew's took place on December the 1st, 1907, less than a year after the decision had been made to stay and renovate rather than sell and relocate. And at the annual meeting held in early 1908, it was reported that all of the work, including the renovations to the sanctuary, the reconfiguration of the church pews to create a center aisle, the creation of the beautiful chancel area, and the installation of the new Cassavants organ, had cost the congregation the grand total of $32,844.08. It's interesting for us to know something of this history for many reasons, and not least because at the heart of the decision to renovate this beautiful space was the motivation that our ancestors embraced, that the mission of St. Andrew's was to be focused on the needs and concerns and life of those who live and work and visit the streets of downtown Toronto. Or as the mission statement of our congregation reminds us then and now, the people of St. Andrew's are called by God to serve in faith, hope, and love in the heart of Toronto. So it was, so it is, and so it shall be.